and he will be showing you how to create something in Shaper. So Shaper is our organic software. Remember, we're answering questions at the very end of the day, so if you have any questions, please feel free to email them to us or contact us later. And once again, thank you.
Hello, good morning. Tu m'entends? Hello, good morning, bonjour, good afternoon. So my name is Maxime Tifino. I'm the 3Design product manager, and I will start with first the presentation of our incredible 3Shaper modeling option with some example to show you what are the performances and the capacities of this part in 3Design software. So let me start with what is the subdivision surface module in 3Design. You have to know that we have this dedicated part to start from scratch with dedicated 3D objects. So it means that if you want to draw or if you want to create maybe the head of an animal, or if you want to start with a ring, you have the possibility to start with 3D shapes and 2D shapes from the beginning of your creation. For example, I start the box, so you have the properties of this box, and you can decide the number of slices you have on that one. And after that, you have different options inside. For example, if I move the vertices from this option, you can sculpt directly this object and get the shape you want. So this can be used for organic shapes, but you can also use a ring from the beginning. This ring, you have all the properties you have for example, the ring size, the size of the thickness, the portions you have on the ring, and after that you can play and use the modification tools you have, for example, the rotation with a dedicated selection. So I have this window to select the middle of my ring, so everything is selected, and I can transform it from this tool, for example, rotation. So you can easily sculpt and deform the object, and I can do the same on the opposite with the negative rotation with a dedicated tool, which is that one, and I can have the opposite modification. This is really useful and fast, means that I can also come back in a dedicated part, which is the associative part, means that I can start from an object and I can duplicate it. So if, for example, I transform and I move this ring on the top, I change the size, for example. When I come back in this part, I have the associative part and I can duplicate along the right axis, which is in this example the OY. And you see that you can change the duplication number and you can get easily this ring, which can be after modified. This is really useful because, for example, in case I have to change the design because I'm not happy with, or my client wants to change the top of the ring, you want to have it more thin or bigger, so I can come back on the first step in my tree, through the tree, because we have also the tree in Shaper, and it can be changed directly on one ring, and the other one will be changed in the same time. So, for example, I have a dedicated tool which allows me to select quickly the faces, and I can change, for example, the size of that one, and automatically I have the duplication inside. So I don't have to be focused on the other rings, and it's big time saving, especially when you have this kind of creation. So I have 3D shapes. I have also 2D shapes. If you want to start with something else, let me show you another example with 2D shapes. So I can come back on that one and start a new modeling. So 2D shape, which can be, for example, quad, which is a surface. Really easy to modify. Again, with my points, you see I have tools available directly for that. I can transform my points with control. I select everything. I can make it thinner like that. And it allows me to start from a 2D shapes, which is really easy to understand for the design. And after that, I can transform the 2D shape in 3D through the extrusion. So I have extrusion like that. Extrusion, which can be changed after for the top. You can see that we have different colors with red edges. If I want to change with normal edges, if I want to make it round, it can be done easily with this feature. Create sharp edges, can be that one or that one, on off button, and after I can play with the move if you want to modify. So it can, this one can be used for a texture. For example, if you use that one and you clone it, I have this option to clone it. I select the object I want to clone, and then I can modify, and then I can duplicate that shapes, so you can come back in 3Design, which is for me a really good thing because I can switch between Shaper and 3Design. You can even use the 3Design tools, even if you created the organic shapes from 3Shaper. After, I can still continue my creation with the Move, Rotate, Scale, which is a really nice tool in 3Design to modify, position, rotate, etc., etc. And that can be after duplicated. So I select the object I want to duplicate, and for example, I can have this line. Voila. And I have this texture, snake skin texture I can use after. I can rotate it, for example, if you want to position it along a ring, so it can be 90 degrees like that. I can modify it. And then you can deform this object. So I can even use the deformation tools from 3Design. Then you can follow, for example, the round shape if you want to change this according to a ring shape, and which is really useful because after, if you want, you can come back in 3Shaper and you can still modify if you have, for example, to change the shape of that one, or if you want to modify a little bit something from this texture. You can even import the object, and I can select, for example, the faces from the duplication there. So I can use, you have to know also that I'm using the 3D connection mouse, which can be really useful for 3Shaper and 3Design. Then you can easily turn around the ring and select what you have to do. So for example, it can be an extrusion from that one. Up. And then after, I can use, for example, something which will be a sweep to draw the ring. Let me select that one. Okay. Then I use a dedicated function for me to draw a wedding ring, which is a new feature in V10. Up, and easily I can change also the material. So this can be something you can do through 3Shaper. I can create, sculpt everything from 3Shaper, and after I can continue the object and the creation in 3Design if I want to put my ring, or if I have to create dedicated stone settings or honeycomb on it. So through 3Shaper, everything can be created, even if you have complicated shape to do in 3Design. Through 3Shaper, you don't have limits concerning the sculpting. So it can be really useful to have this option with 3Design. It makes your 3Design powerful, and you even if you have to create something from jewelry, or if you have to do high jewelry, it can be also used for that. So let me show you another example with symmetry, which can be really interesting also. 3Shaper, that one. So I started with this. So it's exactly what I showed you before with the box. So I started with a box. I sculpted the box till I get this shape, and I created also a ring, which is the second part. Everything is in surfaces, but I want to transform my ring in volume, and I will explain you how to do that. So let's go in 3Shaper to import the shape I want. Then I want to do the connection between the head and the ring. So easily I select the edges with Control. Okay, and I connect them with a dedicated option, which is bridge there. So I check if everything is okay with the symmetry plane, everything is connected on the plane, so everything is ready for the symmetry. I can use again this dedicated part for the associative part in 3Shaper. So I do the mirror. I want to weld everything, so I select this dedicated option and I validate. So I have the ring which is almost finished. But for example, if I want to modify this design, which is maybe on the top of the head, or if I want to modify it to make the eye maybe thinner, I can come back in the tree, edit the surface, and again, as I created the symmetry before, I will have the symmetry on the same on the left side, so I don't have to do double modification, which can be useful if you have to modify this quickly. And then you can have that. Something also which can be useful in the creation, we have colors. As you can see around the eye, or on the top of the creation, I have also this area in red. So it can be helpful if I want to be focused on this eye without the other vertices I have around. So I can freeze or I can hide the colors. And you have these colors in this dedicated tree, and you can organize them. You can even rename them if you want. I can have high, and it can be really useful for the organization when you have to select maybe the eye. You have a dedicated selection tool, for example, that one. And I can select only the green, only the red, or the white if you have to modify it. So when this is modified, we want to have it in volume. For the moment, everything is in surface. You can see that my object is empty. I can create that offset through this feature, Smooth Extrude. and I decide which thickness I want. For example, I want to have 0.6, and automatically the software will create the volume through the thickness. We have the same value all around the ring, so you can change it through the tree if you want to modify it. You have the value there. If you want, you can come back in the tree if you have to modify again the symmetry, and something which can be also modified at the end. If you want to have the left and the right different, you can still sculpt it. So I have the entire ring finished, and I can optimize the creation. For example, if I want to modify that one, you can only modify the right side. For example, I change also this side. Okay. Just to break the symmetry, if you want to make the ring more natural, and maybe I finish with that. I have just a little, okay, perfect. So the good thing is that when I finish the creation, so I have my ring from Shaper, everything is okay for the stone setting, for example, so I can continue the creation through dedicated option I have in 3Shaper, 3Design, sorry, Advanced Pavé, and you can put stones if you want on the head from the objects I created in Shaper, and automatically you can put the stones. So this is something I will show you in details after, but quickly I can create my pavé on the surface directly. Okay, okay. And then I can use the jeweling if I want to do the multi-cutter on it, and I can cut everything from the stones. Okay. And I do my Boolean operation. So again, the good thing is that we can play with 3Shaper and 3Design. You can continue the creation, you can deform, you can sculpt, you can duplicate, etc. So this can be really useful when you have to do these organic shapes in your catalog. Let me show you another example from a picture, which can be really interesting for you. So let's start with an example. So this is a picture from internet, which is a seahorse. So we have a feature in 3Design to import any picture you have, which can be a picture you found on internet, can be a drawing you scanned, etc., etc. So I position the picture on my plane, and then I would draw the curve to get the support, just to give me an idea of where I will position my surfaces. So in the sketch module, I can follow the shape. Okay. I readjust the points. And then I go to Shaper. So I have the curves I want to use for the support. Let me explain you why I created the curves. So I go on Shaper. And with this option, which is the retopology, I can use dedicated support, which is plane, 3D object, or curve. In this example, I want to use my curves, so I select them. And one by one, I can create the surfaces with 4 sides, so it don't have to be super precise at the beginning, because I just want to have faces positioned on strategic points like that. Okay. And then I will connect everything. So for the moment, I have the global shape on the curve, and you can see that after I have a dedicated shortcut, which makes the creation more precise according to the curve I have. So I finish quickly that one. Okay, and then I use control, and you can see that I can split in half and you can even modify the position of the points if you want to readjust. So you have 2 options, add and move. Okay. Perfect. Voila. And the last one. Okay. So I have my surface. I can select everything from the creation. Then something I can do, I can create an edge on the middle, which can be useful if I want to make it more round on the top. So I select with this option directly all the edges I created. I split them from the middle, and then I use extrusion from my creation like that, and it makes it 3D. So I can do 2 extrusions. Then I have also these edges I can play with if you want to move it, if you want to sculpt it to make it thinner on the bottom, for example. And something I showed with the previous creation, I can create the shell if you want to have the thickness. So I create the shell from this object, and automatically I have my 3D object. So from that, it can be something you can save in your library if you want to reuse this seahorse on another collection or creation. So you can save it in the library, and then I can use this base for a ring, for example. So let me show you what I created, and I will show you the steps to get this ring. So this is the exact same seahorse. Um, so I created this ring from the sweeping wizard. So as Pooja showed, you have a section, and from this section I use the sweeping wizard easily to get my ring. And then I can duplicate this creation, which is the seahorse. So I select this one. Okay. So just for the example, you can see that I created something on the back. Let me show you how I created it. You just have to select the faces on the side like that. And I use again extrusion up, which is now full object, which is closed, and I can sculpt from the back with points. And you can have, I hide the ring if you prefer, then I can see properly what I'm doing. Up. and voila. And then I come back in 3Design. I want to have it more round on the top, so I come back in the modeling. I use the edges I created on the middle, remember, and I can also move them to the top. If you want to make it more rounded on the top, it can be done also on the other edges, like that. If you want, we can be focused only on this side. Voila. So I use this creation from Shaper, and you can, as I said, you can modify the position, you can modify the size, minus 90 degrees. I can change the size up. You position it from this arrow. You can even freeze the ring if you want to position it properly. Okay. From the side view, voila. Then I deform it, and you can deform it according to the ring, like that. You can even, if you want, you can use the right click, which allows you to open the last tools you used, and I can move it a little bit inside the ring, for example. So after that, we can come back in 3Shaper again. So I display my ring. I will just move it a little bit inside, for example, like that. Okay. And then I can come back in 3Shaper. So you can see that I have back the subdivision surfaces. So in case you have to modify something because, for example, you want to have a modification directly on this area, you can even move it again. For example, if you want to have it bigger, voila, even on this area. I can even change the size, voila. And then I duplicate it around the ring. So I decide the number of duplication, it will be 9. Yeah, 9 is okay. So from this, you can also, as I showed, you can also put stones on it. So it will be directly on this. So I decide the size of the stone I want to have. Okay. And I do the circular duplication, which was 9, for example. And I can put the diamonds directly in my tree. Okay. And the last step, just for the idea, I wanted to put stones. So, not stones, but sphere. 2 millimeters. Okay. So I can decide to use any objects I want to have in my pavé. I duplicate again around the axis, which is that one. I put 9. and I change the diameter, which will be that one. I want them always visible. Voila. And after you can play with the sphere, for example, it can be done like that if you want to add like a texture inside, which can be a good idea to use the sphere. And through the duplication around the axis, I have automatically the other spheres created. Hop, I want to move that one, which is not on the right surface, and validate. So yeah, 3Shaper module is very useful when you have to do this kind of organic shapes, sculpting. It can be used for animals, flowers. You can also start from something you created in 3Design. For example, this flower. Let me save that file. I created this flower. Up, voila. Is a sweep I created in 3Design with two rails. So you have just to select the section and the two rails. And if you want, you can even start from something you created in 3Design and you can import it in 3Shaper. So this is really useful when, for example, you are almost happy with the design, but you want to modify a little bit on the top, or if you want to make it sharp, or if you want to continue the sculpting inside. Sometimes it's easier to do it in Shaper, especially for this kind of shape. So you validate the import, and then you can continue the sculpting. So you see that everything is transformed into subdivision surfaces, and you resize it, for example. As I said, if you have to modify a specific area on the leaf, you can sculpt it. So even if you start from a sweep in 3Design, it can be modified after in 3Shaper. So this is really powerful to get exactly what you imagined, and if you created something also to help you to get an idea of the shape you want to continue in Shaper, it can be also a good process. As I said, if you want to have the edges on the top sharpened like that, you can also transform them in the selected the edges. You want to make it sharp, and it can be done on the left also. So you have the full control when you transform the object from 3Design and you import it in 3Shaper. After, you have the full control through the subdivision surfaces, and you can do what you have to do for the creation. And again, you do the duplication, etc., etc. So, yeah, if you have any questions, we have a Q&A session in this afternoon, and if you want to contact us, as we said in the chat, you can even send us your questions, example you want to see, and we can discuss with you after the event to show you more examples if you are interested in our powerful module 3Shaper.